Long line shooting, building higher line speeds. It's going to be a little bit tougher on our fly line. We have to keep our line lubed or cleaned at least 2 to 3 times per day, especially when we're going to be practicing a lot. Now I want to show you the proper way to apply that fly line cleaner to your fly line. Now as you're fishing during the day, especially in a lake, there's a lot of residue on top of the water, especially from outboard motors. Even on streams, your line starts getting dry and checked. I probably lubricate my line 2 to 3 times a day fishing in a lake condition. This is some Rust Peak line dressing. It's great for hot weather. It's kind of a fairly thick dressing. I use Grease Lightning for up in Alaska because it's a little better for cooler weather. Put it on a normal tissue, and this is my running line and my fly line. I wrap it around. I'll strip my line up. Especially you want to lubricate your running portion, not necessarily your weight forward portion of your line. Now if you have a sinking line, use a thinner lubricant because it kind of puts a surface tension on the sinking line. I'm just running my fly line over this. This does 2 things. It cleans, it lubricates it, and it also preserves your line. Before you practice double hauling, your line has to be well lubricated or that extra slack won't go up your rod, and your left hand it seems pretty gritty. I'm just going to pull the line back one time. Watch this. You just feel it shoot up, that extra energy going up the rod. About 25% easier to cast right now with a clean line. Keep it clean. When you're fly casting, you're going to have the need to change directions with your cast sometimes, be able to handle longer leaders, and combat some wind conditions. We're going to move over to the boat now, and from there we're going to show you how to do what we call the oval or Belgium cast. Next we're going to cover on actual conditions here what we call an oval cast. Some people call it a Belgium cast. When to use it: if you have a very long leader, as 12 to 18 feet, which some of the lake conditions require, you don't want to throw a tight loop on your back cast or your front cast. So what you do, you throw a big wide, you pick your rod up, swing it to the right and back. It throws a nice smooth back cast. And the other thing, it only takes about half the room on your back cast. So if you're ever fishing on stream conditions that require a longer cast forward but a shorter back cast, the oval cast is the way to go. Now let me show you a basic oval cast. First of all, get the rod laid out in front of you. Now bring it back, swipe it down and up and over. Again, down and up and over. You can start your forward cast at any point because you're not throwing a back loop, tight loop behind you. So you're throwing a sweeping loop. Keeps a real good leader separation at all times. Very good for right hand to left hand wind for right-handers. W-I-N-D, that dreaded 4-letter word for any fly caster. If you've ever been there, you'll know what I mean. Here's some techniques to help you be able to combat those crosswind conditions. Let me show you a couple of ways to combat some wind conditions, right hand to left hand wind. I just went through the Belgium cast, which is a big wide oval cast like this. But let's say you have a pretty severe wind conditions. As you all know, if you bring the rod back close to you like this, there's a good chance that fly hitting on the way back or the way forward. So remember, jokingly, I always say self-preservation is the first cast you have to do. What you have to do sometime, bring the rod back this side, tip it over your shoulder. What I'm doing here is I'm bringing the rod up back this side, letting go around, the wind's blowing over my shoulder, and making my cast like this. Let me demonstrate this. Rod over your right side, cast from this side. Right side, cast from this side. If you have to, and are very severe winds, you may have to cast like this over the other side. Now you can still do the double haul. It's not quite as pretty a cast, but at least to get your fly out. As a last resort, there's times I've used this. The target is here. I've actually had to turn my back, rotate your wrist this way, cast this direction, back to your target. Remember, the back cast is a cast, so it shouldn't matter which way you point. Let's take a look at this while I'm sitting in my float tube. I'm operating here with a breeze from my right to my left, and it's not very fierce right now, but for a right-handed caster, that's probably the worst wind is a right-hand quartering wind. It has a tendency to blow the fly into you. So you have to become aware of that to make sure the fly misses you. One way to do that is what we call an oval cast. I want to bring the rod around sideways, stop, and the fly will blow over my head and finish my cast on this side. Here we go, rod tip down, line tight, kind of come up and over this side. Sometimes not real pretty, but that's about the only cast you have sometime. Another way to do that is turn around backward and actually cast downwind and make your delivery backhanded. Because remember, the backhanded cast is a cast. If you're on a river bank, the brush is behind you, and you got the river over here, and there's a little gap between the trees, you can also turn, cast into the trees like this, and cast back out on the river. So remember, that backhanded cast is a nice delivery, and it's awful handy for combating those crosswinds. Keeping the rod over this side, you can sit here on this way. You can actually cast, tipping your rod path over and making the fly miss you on a sidearm, on a crosswind cast also. So it's a very handy little use. Tip your rod over, still you can double haul, make the same presentation as you would over the right side. Just a little more cumbersome, but you can still get the fly out there. You'll find out that 90% of your practice casting is accomplished on a lawn. There are times when you need the friction of water to be able to accomplish a roll cast, but remember, that's where you start to improve, is on the lawn. We're going to move there for this next segment. Have you heard the old adage that all fish lay within 30 feet? There's probably somebody that's mentioned that to you at one time or the other. I'll guarantee you, using empathy, that person I doubt could cast over 30 feet. With the new rods that I'm using, a G Loomis IMX rod here, new fly line, this is a Wolf triangle taper, new PVC coatings on fly line. Now, the people are getting rid of that old inhibition. There's nothing wrong with casting 100 feet and coming back down to 30 feet or shorter if you have to. But have the option, get rid of the inhibitions and see what a fly rod will do. I know my wife can stand flat-footed and throw 80 feet, so there's nothing to do with power, it's all technique once you allow it to happen. If you're interested in becoming an advanced caster and increasing those distances, this next section is extremely important to you. I'm at another sportsman show doing the casting demonstrations here. There's always one person that enjoys it, and that's me. Usually the audience helps me by getting involved in it. Let's show you how to do a little fly casting now. The next part I'm going to do, I think is the most important thing in fly casting, is called the double haul. Okay, this part right here is called speeding line up. When you learn this last part, you're going to spend a lot of money, but you're also going to enjoy the sport of fly. Who double hauls now? I'll explain what I did. It's addictive, isn't it? At that point, it's like a guy said you could purchase a chainsaw and cut a cord of wood a day, and then some idiot comes along and shows you how to start the saw. That's just about what fly casting is like without double hauling. It's just about, I did that for 28 years, I swear. I fished up here, the furthest I could ever get was 60 feet. Somebody showed me how to double haul, and I went immediately within 5 minutes to 100 feet. And I've seen cold chills go up my student's arm. I probably went through over 10,000 people showing them how to do this, and I tell you, I've got some gratification every time. Now, what we're talking about is building line speed, not 180-foot cast. I set double HAUL haul on short cast, even dry fly fishing. You can powder your fly, you can pick up line, you can punch a lot of backwind. There's many uses for it, so don't hide behind distance that keeps you from learning to double haul. Folks, it ain't going to wash with me. I'm not going to listen to you. Okay, now what we're looking at doing here, if I cast with one hand, I sit here, and if I want to cast faster, I got to put, my blood vessels are going to start showing on my arm, my wrist is going to start hurting. And that's really an inefficient way to cast. What we're talking about doing is building some more line speed by using our offhand, in this particular case, my left hand, to speed up my line in addition to my right hand. Now, for demonstration purposes only, I'm going to wrap the line around my left hand. So I'm not going to be letting any more line out. I'll just be generating pure speed. All right, everybody understand that? Now, when you pick up a rod for the first time, bless your heart, you do one thing correct instinctively, and that's the last thing you ever do that's correct instinctively with a fly rod. It's when you come back on your right hand, your left hand starts getting further away, doesn't it? So what you're doing, you're building some speed. Now shake your head only as you understand this. If I come back this way, there's a certain amount of speed, but watch what happens when I tug. I'll tug. Everybody see that? This is no tug with my left hand. This is a tug with my left hand. That's 3 times the line speed just by pulling away once your rod is flexed, all right? I'm pulling away. I'm pulling away, all right? Now, you just dug yourself a grave. Here's what happens. The left hand is out here, the right hand's where it should be for a long cast, but now as I go forward, I'm going to throw slack up my rod by putting my hands together, right? So has anybody ever seen this in a fly caster? Watch this. You pull back, great. Now you go forward and you kill your cast. That's called an anti-haul. It's like standing on a board and trying to lift it. It ain't going to work, is it? So you're sitting here going, well, I said, do you double haul acid soup? Well, I do half a haul. And what they're telling me is they're throwing slack up the rod and they can't. Where's the most important cast? It's the front one, and all they're doing. Look at this now. Do you think this is going to throw slack up the rod? What happens when I go forward with the rod? Do you think I can cast very far like that? No, because there's too much slack going up the rod. Now what I'm going to show you is real simple, isn't it? No, it's impossible. I'm going to show you how to teach yourself how to double haul, all right? So what we're going to do for demonstration purposes only is we're going to cast sidearm. The reason I'm casting sidearm is I can keep it between the weeds here, all right? At home, do this on your lawn, in the driveway. Keep a rod strung up. Because if you have to take the rod of the rod sack, put it together, string it up, you'll never practice. Keep a rod strung up at all times. Put your thumb on top of the rod, or in a hammer fashion, no pinkies on top. Out here we need a thumb or handle like this, whichever is more comfortable for you. All right, rotate your rod sideways, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be casting in this direction and stopping, in this direction and stopping. We don't want to favor this cast. We don't want to favor this cast. We want to make our 12 o'clock right here. And then we're going to work on what we call a 45-degree angle. Trust me on this, it works. It makes it very simple. 45 and 45, and it's going to look like this. Rod to the side. We're going to come back and stop at 45 and quit. Do not return. It's very important not to return. Go forward to 45 and stop. Drop your rod down. Do not return. Now, once you get your loops where they're tight, if you stop real abruptly with your wrist, your loops are going to project out like that knot. Doming loops, right? So we stop at 45 and 45. Now watch this. Grasp your line very securely. What I'm going to do as I go back now, I'm going to stop here, right? Just before I stop, I'm going to tug. Quit. Leave your rod here and drop your line. Grasp the line for the next cast. So now we can do what? We can pull away on our front cast and return. Pull away and return. I'm holding very securely. Away and return. Away, return. Away, return. Don't do 2 in a row. You can't do it, folks. You can't do it, I'll guarantee you. And you keep doing this. Away and return. And then as you get a couple down, you start raising it overhead. Now, if you look at fly line like this, you can pull it, right? Have you ever tried to push fly line? You can't push it, can you? So the way you get your left hand up to the reel, watch this now. I'm holding tight, I'm pulling and returning, pulling and returning. And watch this extra slack. I pull and let go. There's some extra energy, isn't there? I've generated some extra speed. So to get your left hand up to the reel, all you have to do then is merely hang on. I pull, watch my left hand on, it's being pulled up in position in preparation for the next cast. Pull away, return, away, return. Now I want to do a pantomime. I want everybody to join it. Do 2, look like a fool with me, all right? Grab your rod in your right hand. Do 2 of these and grab your rod in your left hand. I'll show you the mistakes you happen around. Go back very slowly. Come on, join in with me. Go back very slowly. When you feel your rod tugging, pull away. Now leave that angle back there. Make this hand come up. Feel the line shooting up your rod. Go forward, pull away, hold the angle, make this hand go up here. One more time, come back, pull away, make the hand, hold that angle, go forward, pull away, and then release your line and watch it shoot. See what I'm getting at?